Hello, my awesome PMP graduates. How you doing? Welcome to Life After the PMP exam. Today, I'm going to be talking about coping with PM stress, the mindset for success. Now, in my experience as a PM, I found myself working with all sorts of individuals, those who I thought were negative and those who I thought were positive. But one day I took a step back and I thought, are you the negative person thinking other people are negative? And as I began to dig into the recesses of my mind and behavior, I realized I didn't have to think those individuals were negative. I needed to work on myself. And I call these mindset ideas that I've discovered along the way. The first thing that I want to talk about is believing the best in everyone. Believing the best in everyone does you a huge service because it takes you out of that negative zone of thinking and puts you into a positive realm, which just makes you lighter and able to think more clear. I found a stakeholder of mine who I thought was negative to actually be a realistic stakeholder. Let me tell you what happened. This stakeholder was waiting for a set of deliverables to be delivered. And in this company I worked for, our habit was to deliver the deliverables a little bit late. And whenever we deliver this deliverable late, the stakeholder would say, "You're late. This violates the SLA. I'm not paying for it." And for the longest time, I thought he was being difficult. I thought he was being mean. So anytime we were late, which was a whole lot of times, I would say, well, he's not going to sign this. He's not going to sign off on it. That's a wasted journey because we had a courier service that would deliver these documents to customers in a bank. Anyway, long story short, one day came and I thought, he has a point. We are almost always late. This is bad. You actually owe him an apology. So I took the deliverable to him and I said, you know what? I'm really sorry. We're late again. I know you're not going to sign off on this. I apologize. We're going to try to do better next time. And a miracle happened. He said, no, that's all right. Give me the piece of paper. And he actually signed off on a late deliverable. I'm like, whoa, you mean because my attitude changed, he had a different disposition towards where we were clearly wrong? He was more forgiving. And ever since that occasion, this was like 2 decades ago, I decided I would believe the best. That incident trained me to believe the best in everyone. And I could share story after story. Still in this line of business, there was a case where my boss brought me a new intake, someone who was new to the firm. However, he knew this intake from somewhere else. He knew this person he was bringing to me to train from a company they worked in together. So in my mind, I felt, oh, well, here comes trouble. He obviously is in cahoots with this guy and probably is going to replace my job with this guy. Well, he brought the guy to me to train. And at first I had a negative disposition. I was thinking, well, that's it. This is his favorite person who he wants to take over your position. As soon as you train him, that's going to be it. Or worse still, you're going to be reporting to him. Can you see how having a negative mindset can make you crazy and influence how you behave? Anyway, long story short, as a result of being a person of faith, I think that was the bit that helped me get my bearings straight. And I thought, no, this isn't the right way to behave. You actually should do your best to train this individual. So what did I do? I poured all of my knowledge, all of my abilities, everything I knew to do in that position. I taught this new person, this new intake. And I thought, I've done the best I can. That's the right way to behave. And I moved on from there in my mind. But one day my boss called me and said, person XYZ is done with his training with you now. And I'd like to discuss. I said, okay, let's see what's going to happen. And he said, person XYZ said, you are the best manager he has ever had. And as a result of your great performance in this endeavor in bringing someone for training, because now he can go and do something else for the firm without supervision. You trained him so well that we are giving you a promotion to be in charge of this scope of work and to be in charge of all of the implants in this domain. Wow. As a result of my changing my attitude, my mindset, it turned out for the best. And these are just two examples of how I have been able to see that believing the best in people, believing the best in everyone, it will pay off. Okay? Another reason for believing the best in everyone is it is a stress coping mechanism as well. Just believing the best, it takes the weight off you, it takes the stress away. Always believe that people have the best intentions. Always believe that in a system, things will come full circle. You know, some people call it the law of karma. Some people say what comes around goes around and things such as that. But my disposition is to believe the best, because at the end of the day, you will benefit from it. It doesn't even have to be about the individuals. You will benefit from it. I also want to warn you as a project manager to beware of the gossip trap. If you fall into the gossip trap and you're talking about your coworkers behind their backs, you're talking about bosses behind, it never ends very well, to be honest, because that gives you preconceived ideas. The way you act, think, and behave towards those individuals is marred as a result of the gossip that you've heard. Whether it's true or not, that would be my advice. Remember, the idea is to cope with stress as a PM. And one of the ways you want to is be neutral, just have a neutral disposition, a neutral look. Also, remember neurodiversity. It is amazing how we are all humans, but we think and process information differently and see the world differently. Failure to remember neurodiversity will result in a lot of disappointment and a lot of missed opportunities where you could brainstorm and get to know what the other person is thinking and how they're processing it for it to result in the best outcome. So I know you're certified, lots of you, but this will take you to a whole new level. We cannot always be the same and should not. And you know this from your exam preparation, right? Because, you know, part of the big old PMP exam content outline is diversity and inclusion. And I know a lot of times when we think about diversity, we're thinking about race, religion, orientation, things like that. But that is not all diversity is about. Diversity is about diverse thinking patterns, diversity of ideas, diversity of dispositions and leanings. We cannot always be the same, and we need to appreciate and celebrate people for being different. The next thing I would advise you to be aware of is when you are on a team, beware of the hypernorming trap. My buddy Roy Schilling, whenever we talk about conflict, he brings up this very important concept of hypernorming. And what is hypernorming? You remember the 5 stages of team development: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. Now, you know, the norming stage is where we begin to align and normalize. While that is a good stage, we don't want to get into hypernorming where we never, ever disagree. And we always see things exactly the same way as others on the team to get along, or because we've been so neutralized in the way we see things. No, we don't want to do that. Being in the hypernorming trap is dangerous because it negates the great things that could come from conflict of ideas, constructive conflict. So I encourage you on a team to look at conflict as being productive when it's managed in a healthy environment. Okay, so don't fall into the hypernorming trap. I'm not saying be in the hypernorming trap. I'm just saying have a positive mental attitude. There are lots of benefits, huge benefits from having a positive mental attitude. Now, you might already know of Mayo Clinic. Well, they came out with a very interesting set of negative mindset traps that I want to share with you. And at the same time, they came up with some positive thinking antidotes to the negative thinking. So let's take a look at those real quick before we end today. So at a high level, we've got filtering. This is magnifying negatives and filtering out positives. We don't want to fall into any of these traps. Personalizing is where you blame yourself for what happened, what might have happened, as opposed to focusing on the way forward. Catastrophizing is where you look at every situation where something went wrong as being an opportunity for everything else to go downhill, like anticipating the worst and believing everything else will go downhill. Another negative thinking pattern is blaming others constantly for what went wrong instead of thinking about the way forward. The should trap is blaming yourself. So blaming others, blaming yourself, equally bad. Blaming yourself for what you should have or could have done. The trap of magnifying is majoring on the minor, making a big deal out of nothing. Perfectionism is creating impossible standards for yourself or others. And polarizing is seeing only good or bad and no middle ground. All of these are negative thinking traps that negate a positive mental attitude's effect on the situation, looking at the way forward. Okay. So how do you get out of these negative thinking traps? Well, my advice is for you to gauge yourself on the regular. I do it on the regular. I gauge myself and I ask myself, are you really thinking positively about that? Is that a healthy way of thinking? So I call myself out. Positive thinking, as Mayo Clinic says, it often starts with self-talk. And self-talk is the endless stream of unspoken thoughts that run through your head. These automatic thoughts could be positive. You could program them to be positive, or they could be negative. You got to reprogram them if the majority of them are negative. And some of your self-talk could come from logic and reason, and other self-talk could come from misconceptions, these negative thinking patterns. So let's talk about how we can rewire our thinking. First one is identify areas to change. I do this all the time. If I find myself having a preconceived idea, I call myself out and I reprogram that change immediately. So I'm constantly checking myself and asking myself, are you hallucinating freely, as my buddy Rick Brinkman would say in his book, Dealing with People You Can't Stand? He talks about when you open up an email, and if you're in the wrong mental state and you're reading it, you're really hallucinating freely. You're imagining everything that that person hasn't said, how they didn't say it. So I always check myself. I ask myself, are you hallucinating freely? So stop during the day, evaluate what you're thinking, and ask yourself, am I thinking positively, or am I falling into one of these negative traps? The next one is having a healthy lifestyle, right? And over the past number of months, I've tried my best to elevate my mental state by exercising at least 20 minutes in a day with high intervallic training, high intensity training in intervals. It helps. Whatever you need to do to follow a healthy lifestyle, to allow your mindset to be more positive, I would encourage you to do that. Make it a lifestyle. Next one is be open to humor, right? Give yourself permission to smile or laugh during difficult times. Seek humor in everyday happenings, even when it happens to you. Be just easy to laugh at yourself, quick to laugh at yourself. Don't build up a facade or a barrier that you're infallible and therefore no one should laugh at you and you shouldn't laugh at yourself. No, laugh at yourself, expensive jokes on your own dime, and it helps. It helps having a positive mental attitude. Next one is surround yourself with positive people, right? Not negative Nancy or the negative Nettie. No, surround yourself with people that can elevate your mindset, your mental state. Turn on the radio and listen to some uplifting music, or just listen to an MP3, a podcast, something that will elevate your mood. I often encourage my PLI students, Project Leadership Institute students, to daily surround themselves with a positive message. Whether or not you're a person of faith, you can find positive mental messages that are not necessarily faith-oriented. I would encourage you to listen to the likes of Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, John Maxwell, and Norman Vincent Peale. You can find all of these on YouTube for free. So surround yourself with positive messages, positive people. And lastly, as I said, practice positive self-talk. As a project manager, my friend, you are going to get to points you feel like ripping your hair out. You feel like doing something crazy. You feel like yelling at everyone. I've been there. I have almost done that with the caution of my bosses. Thank God I didn't lose it. But I'm telling you, if you allow yourself to go crazy, you will in this job. The reason is you're leading without authority. So you're relying on influence, which of course does not come from authority alone. It comes from you working the system and working the process and working those interpersonal skills. You know, I always talk about the 5 levels that you have to lead. Level 1 is position, and it's the most primitive, and it's not promised to you. You got to start wherever you are. So as a project manager, you're starting at level 1, which is the position. Level 2 is the permission. This is where you need to let those interpersonal skills and positive mental attitude shine, because people will follow you only because they want to. So you need to make them feel at ease. You need to be a likable individual, or no one's going to want to follow you. Now, it's not just likability that is an influencing factor. After level 2, we talk about level 3, which is about production. People follow you because of what you've done for the firm. Level 4 is people follow you because of what you've done for them. That's the people level. And last but not least, we have the pinnacle. You've kept levels 1, 2, 3, and 4 intact. And through habit and repetition, people see you as a great leader. But it doesn't come overnight. However, it does start with your mindset. Okay, so project managers, PMPs, if you're coping with stress ineffectively, I hope this helps you have a better disposition towards coping with stress on the job. If you need training, coaching, mentoring in any of these things, go on down to pmanonymous.com. I offer PM coaching, training, leadership, development, and things like that. All right, my friends, thank you very much. Well done once again, those of you who recently got certified. I'll talk to you soon.